This past May, Nashville experienced the most devastating floods in the city's history. CMT salutes Nashville-area businesses and leaders who graciously answered the call of a city in need. We honor you and your enormous contributions to rebuilding our great city.
The floods that occurred on May 1st and May 2nd impacted Nashville severely. We had 10 deaths in Nashville, over $2 billion in damage to private property, $100 million and more of damage to public property. It was probably the most significant natural disaster in Nashville in 70 years.
The mayor pulled together very rapidly a business response team, and it was through the efforts of that business response team and those volunteers that we're able to reach out to our local businesses, especially smaller businesses, and help them understand what they needed to do to start to recover.
It's an imperative as a city that we work with the business community as represented by our chamber to help businesses get back up and running.
Personal recovery is tied to business recovery because people who have suffered the calamity of a disaster like a flood have to have a job, have to have work, have to have a way to restore their personal economy. One of the great things about Nashville's response was that the business community that could operate kicked back into gear right away.
Well, VOAD is essentially the volunteer response, the nonprofit response to the flood, and it worked on a variety of levels, but I think the most significant one, and the one that I think really represents Nashville's response to the flood, was a number of volunteers who helped their fellow citizens. You also had an organization called Hands On Nashville, which we had a pre-existing agreement with to coordinate volunteer efforts. The great story in Nashville is we had thousands of volunteers.
On that Sunday evening on May 2nd, we had that first need for volunteers, and they said we need to sandbag the levees down at Metro Center in Nashville, and we need about 100 volunteers who can show up in the next hour or so. And within 25 minutes, we had 350 volunteers out sandbagging those levees. And that's when I think we knew internally that our citizens were going to respond in the way that we always knew they would.
The first thing you have to say about this community is that it all pulled together for flood relief and recovery and even business recovery. Look at a place like Gaylord Opryland, who employs a couple of thousand people directly, but because of the significance of their operation in this city, thousands more are dependent on their operation for employment and work. And they invested capital and they invested effort and time to open up by the middle of November, which restores jobs to thousands of people in this community. That in and of itself is a huge commitment to recovery, and so many businesses took that attitude.
The reason why we were able to get back so quickly was because of the strong culture our company has and also the great relationships we have with many of the subcontractors and construction companies. And so we were able to quickly bring plans to place.
Jackson Life is brand new to town. They have just located their headquarters here. And literally on the day that they're doing their grand arrival in town, they're making an announcement about a $250,000 contribution to flood recovery.
Greyline was privileged to get phone calls from the police department and the fire department really asking us if we could help our neighbors get to dry land. We probably moved north of 1,000, probably 1,500 or more people out of the Music Valley and Pennington Bend area.
Metro Nashville Public Schools and the Opry Mills Nike store had a long relationship, and it really wasn't a surprise when they stepped forward after the flood and came up with this wonderful idea to take their damaged merchandise and use it to help some of our families who had been affected by the flood.
We were able to set up a pop-up store, inviting all of the victims associated with Metro Nashville Public Schools to a personal shopping experience for their families.
They turned an elementary school gymnasium into a great-looking retail store. The way they did it really reflected the quality that Nike has for its organization, but also the care that they had for people who had lost everything.
I'm incredibly proud of the way the city has responded. We're not going to rest until everybody's back in their homes, and we're not going to rest until we've helped every business get started again.
The citizens and businesses of Nashville have pulled together to rebuild a stronger city. CMT honors your continued efforts and is proud to call Nashville home. Congratulations to the 2010 Corporate Citizenship Awards finalists.